記緊啦嚇，冤有頭就債有主。
你點解拉埋佢哋兩個落水啊？佢哋係無辜噶，無辜。
喂，咁多位大家好，我係梁 Sir。今日咧我哋又嚟睇一條有關於疾病嘅數據分析題目啦。咁題目咧一開始咧就去解釋下啲字眼俾我哋聽先嘅。咁啊，疾病負擔啦 ，disease burden 係一個衡量人口健康嘅指標啦。咁啊，量化因為疾病導致嘅壽命或者健康結果嘅一啲潛在嘅損失，同理想情況底下長壽且健康嘅生活咧去相比嘅。咁以下呢一幅圖咧就顯示咗啦，由1992年去到2014年咧，喺某一個嘅國家 X 咧，佢嗰個疾病負擔嘅變化嘅。而呢度當中咧，你會見到啦，上部就係呢個傳染病啦，而下部咧就係非傳染病嘅。咁見到白色嘅區域啦，同埋黑色嘅區域啦，就係呢兩款嘅疾病對個社會所造成嘅疾病負擔啦。咁而家 part A 咧就問啦，要我哋去描述一下喺1992年去到2014年之間，究竟呢一個國家嘅疾病負擔佢嗰個百分比嘅份額啊，有咩嘅轉變喎？咁唔使審啦，呢條題目梗係考全視技能啦，係咪？今次咧要考嘅就係數據嘅描述啦，未使你解釋嘅。咁但係描述當中有啲咩要留意咧？就係其實佢係做緊一個比較。咁記緊翻啦，做比較嘅時候就要有完整嘅比較，因為今次呢個疾病嘅負擔唔係淨係講一款病，唔係淨係講一款病，因為我哋有兩大類型嘅疾病，一類型就係傳染病，另一類型就係非傳染病。咁所以當我哋要做比較嘅時候，你會發現啦，我就將咧呢個白色啊或者呢啲黑色嘅區域咧，就用翻紅色同黃色啦，係咪有容易啲嘅比較顯示翻俾大家睇啦？你會見得到啦，近92年嘅呢個位置啦嚇，紅色呢條巴咧同黃色呢條巴咧，咁紅色係長少少嘅。咁但係啦，逐漸去到2014年嘅時候咧，你見到紅色呢條巴咧，代表住呢個傳染病嘅呢個白色嘅份額啊，其實佢已經係逐漸少咗。相對上啦，就係非傳染病嘅黑色呢個份額咧係多咗㗎。當你答題目嘅時候，記緊答兩句咯。由傳染病所引起嘅疾病負擔，隨住時間而減少；而同一時間或者你話但係咁由非傳染病所引起嘅疾病負擔咧，其實就增加咗。你見得到啦，紅色呢條巴係短咗，黃色呢條巴係長咗。咁呢個咧先叫做完整比較。咁下次人哋點樣問咧，咁咪加多一分俾你咯。嗱，嗰個疾病負擔嘅份額嘅改變咧，我照樣問你，但係啦，要你俾個原因我。咁所以啦，改變我又要講有一分，然後俾個原因我又要加多一分。咁你都可以嘗試俾啲原因噶嘛？傳染病個疾病負擔少咗，會唔會係因為個疫苗接種做得好咗啊？又或者啦，個非傳染病份額多咗，會唔會係因為我哋嘅生活模式有個變化？例如啦，我哋成日食啲加工食品啊，成日話久坐啊，係嘛，一啲靜態嘅生活啊。所以啦，呢條題目咧，其實都可以再引申去考下大家有關於傳染病啦，同埋非傳染病嘅一啲特徵嘅。咁你都借呢個機會講下常犯錯誤啦。咁正如頭先所講啦，有啲同學咧就做唔到一個完整比較。淨係講傳染病就冇講非傳染病，或者反轉嚇，因為見到白色咧最易睇啊嘛。喂，呢一忽好大忽喎，跟住啦就變成好細忽喎。但係其實佢忽略咗，其實黑色呢度咧就由好細忽變成好大忽喎，係嘛？就講咗頭就冇講尾啦，做唔到完整比較啦。第二類型嘅同學咧，直頭係忽略咗上面同下面呢兩隻字啊，就淨係睇呢條線啊。嗱，條線係好易睇噶嘛，係咪？條線咧就係由92年升咗上去，佢哋就淨係講啦。個 disease burden 疾病負擔咧，隨住92年去到2014年咧係上升嘅。咁其實咁係咩病啊？冇講到呢兩款病嘅趨勢。當大家答數據描述嘅題目嘅時候咧，就留意一下啦噃。嗱，去到 B.C 咧，我哋就集中講下乙型肝炎嘅疫苗啦，同埋乙型肝炎嘅感染率啦。咁而家咧就睇一睇咯。咁我哋有呢個圖表啦，又係92年去到2014年嘅。左手邊呢個 Y 軸咧就係乙型肝炎嘅疫苗接種率啦，而右手邊呢個 Y 軸咧就係乙型肝炎嘅感染發病率嚟嘅。咁各自有兩條曲線俾我哋睇啦。呢一個咧就係疫苗接種率，上面啊就係乙型肝炎嘅發病率啦。題目就問咯，根據翻疫苗接種嘅原理，要我哋解釋下呢一幅圖所顯示嘅關係。咁呢條自不然又係全視技能啦，要我哋解釋下 呢兩者嘅關係，其實即係要去判斷下個因果關係。咁啊死啦！究竟個因果關係係如何呢？究竟啦係個發病率下降，所以個疫苗接種率上升啊，定係疫苗接種率上升，從而令到個感染嘅發病率下降呢？唔緊要噶，因為題目係出賣咗個提示俾你噶啦。佢就話根據疫苗接種的原理，其實未已經暗示咗俾你聽，咁擺到明係要接種咗乙型肝炎嘅疫苗，從而就令到呢個社會嘅乙型肝炎嘅感染啊、發病率啊係有個改變啦，係咪？咁而家因果關係咧，我哋就拆解到啦。但係題目唔係淨係問關係咁簡單，仲要我哋解釋。咁我哋睇下整個思考應架咯。一開始啦，就梗係講緊有一種首次接觸外來嘅抗原啦，係咪？透過接種乙型肝炎啦，咁我哋個身體嘅免疫系統咧，就初次地接觸到乙型肝炎嘅抗原啦，係嘛？無論係 B cell、T cell 啊，嗰啲 lymphocyte 嗰啲淋巴細胞咧，就接觸到乙型肝炎病毒嘅抗原啦。呢啲啦就引發咗我哋嘅初次反應 （primary immune response）。但係啦，整個初發反應最緊要嘅、最值錢嘅係乜嘢啊？就係記憶細胞。所以你就要講啦，從呢個反應咧就製造到記憶細胞去記住呢個乙型肝炎病毒嘅抗原咯。嗱，認住呢一個乙型肝炎病毒嘅抗原咯。嗱，記緊啦嚇，冤有頭就債有主。咁啊，今次題目咧就講乙型肝炎嘅。咁首先你要分得清佢係乙型肝炎嘅病毒啦。咁好多同學咧就寫咗乙型肝炎嘅細菌咁啊，已經錯咗啦，係咪？仲要因為今次講到明係有一個特定嘅情況例子啦嘛，你就唔好求其講話 the pathogens 個病原體啦，人哋今次係乙型肝炎嘅病毒嘅抗原嚟嘅。當我個身體真真正正接觸到乙型肝炎嘅病毒啦，例如我真係中咗招啦，你嘅記憶細胞咧就會引發起我哋嘅繼發免疫反應 （secondary immune response），就係一個更加強啦、更加快嘅免疫反應啦。喺個乙型肝炎嘅病毒進入侵我哋嘅細胞之前咧，已經殲滅咗佢啦 （eradicate）。你唔寫 eradicate 嘅，咪 destroy 咯。或者 fight against 咯，總之就令到佢冇辦法入侵到你嘅細胞，你咪係一個免疫 immune 嘅狀態咯，係咪？所以啦，個關係就係咩啊？就係啦，我哋會發現隨住乙型肝炎疫苗嘅接種率上升，就導致到乙型肝炎嘅感染發病率就下降啦。咁啊，同之前講過一樣啦，你可以先寫 A， 然後 B、C、D 作為解釋，又或者先寫 B、C、D， 然後一句所以我哋就得出呢個結論啦，係冇問題嘅。最緊要就齊料嘅啫，你就係利用翻接種疫苗嘅原理嚟去解釋翻而家呢幅圖顯示嘅呢兩個因素究竟嘅因果關係係如何呢？咁亦都借呢個時間講下一啲常犯錯誤啦。咁第一個常犯錯誤咧就係啲同學咧就係跳站啊，個邏輯扣連唔夠緊緻啊，佢就直接就走去講啦，接種咗疫苗之後個身體就會有記憶細胞。但係其實佢哋漏咗中間嗰樣嘢，喂，就係我哋嘅 B 淋巴細胞也好 ，T 淋巴細胞也好，當佢首次接觸到個抗原嘅話，就會有初發反應，有初發反應之後先會有記憶細胞噶嘛，佢就要跳咗站啦，所以咧中間啲過程就冇咗，就好似麥兜嗰個故事啦。從前有個小朋友有一日佢死咗，咁中間發生咩事你都要講俾我聽噶，係咪？跟住啦。就係啲同學咧就冇講到明記憶細胞係點樣提供免疫力嘅，佢就話啦，有記憶細胞啦，跟住咧就免疫啦。咁原來啦，因為記憶細胞當佢再次去接觸到呢個乙型肝炎病毒嘅抗原之後，佢就會引發繼發免疫反應。咁例如啦 ，B 淋巴細胞喺繼發嘅免疫反應底下，個短啲嘅時間就會製造到更加多嘅抗體，從而啦就令到個乙型肝炎嘅病毒喺入侵我哋嘅細胞之前已經被我哋殲滅咗 eradicate 咗啦，係咪？有啲同學咧就記錯咗啦，記憶細胞喺繼發反應當中產生抗體，其實都仍然係 B 淋巴細胞去產生抗體嘅。咁你又係跳咗個邏輯去啦。最尾嗰個啦，亦都真係好常見啦，就係大家搞亂咗抗體同埋抗原啦。咁過往咧都拍咗啲片咧去解釋抗體同抗原嘅，咁快手睇下片溫啦書咯噃。就去到 Part C 啦，咁題目就問啦，根據翻 Part A 同 Part B 嘅資料啦。就要我哋去說明一下或者建議一下啦，究竟疫苗接種咧對於呢個國家佢嘅疾病負擔嘅改變有啲咩嘅作用或者有啲咩角色咧？呢個題目咧又係全視技能，就係運用我哋基礎嘅生物知識咧 去為某一啲嘅現象作出一個解釋嘅。咁啊，當中啦，今次我哋去講嘅咧就係講一個角色啦、作用啦。咁記緊翻啦，其實即係暗示講個功能啦。然後啦，個功能咧其實就同我哋嗰個疾病負擔係有關係嘅。而疾病負擔喺 Part A 已經講咗啦，疾病負擔其實係下降咗，因為呢一個係乙型肝炎，係一個傳染病嚟嘅。咁頭先喺 Part A 我哋知道噶嘛，傳染病喺呢個國家嘅疾病負擔咧係下降咗噶嘛。咁頭先 Part A 都講咗啦，不過人哋話啊嘛 in the change 啊嘛，有咩改變啊嘛，咁即係話題目都想你講多次，咁你照講啦，冇辦法，冇分都要講噶，因為個重點係擺喺前面啊嘛。咁所以啦，疫苗接種嘅呢個計劃咧，就能夠減少咗呢個乙型肝炎嘅傳染病嘅發病率。又或者啦，能夠減少咗會俾呢個乙型肝炎病毒去入侵嘅一啲宿主啊，係因為啦，我哋透過疫苗接種計劃咧，就去截斷咗呢個感染鏈啦，從而咧就減低咗喺呢個國家咧，基於呢個傳染病所引致嘅疾病負擔啦。咁所以你會發現啦，藍色嘅部分就係角色啦、功能啦，紫色嘅部分就係回應翻題目當初問我哋嘅嘢啫，就係減低咗由傳染病所導致嘅疾病負擔啦。然後咧去到 Part D 啦，我哋睇到一款病啦，今次就係肝癌嘅發病率啦。喺呢個國家唔同年紀嘅人啦，佢哋嗰個肝癌嘅發病率係如何呢？我哋當中咧都有多兩個數據喎，就係啦，每一個年紀入面都有人係冇接種到乙型肝炎嘅疫苗啦，亦都有啲人咧接種咗乙型肝炎嘅疫苗嘅。咁所以啦，你見到有個白色同黑色兩條巴啦，然後題目咧就講咯，根據翻個圖表啦，去總結一下乙型肝炎同埋肝癌之間嘅關係，然後啦再喺翻幅圖咧，再去揾證據去支持你嘅答案。咁所以啦，關係就一分，證據就一分啦，係咪？咁呢條題目擺到明啦，又係數據分析，咁一定又係考全視技能噶啦。咁但係除咗全視技能之外啦，其實有冇啲概念嘅嘢都有考到呢？就係考翻有關於癌症嘅高危因素啦，例如啦家族病史啦、老化啦、接觸致癌物質啦，同埋唔健康嘅生活模式。咁今次特別想講嘅係乙型肝炎啊嘛，其實就係講致癌物質啦。而致癌物質當中，病毒都係其中一款，書本都提咗你噶啦。原來就係乙型肝炎病毒就同肝癌係有關係嘅。咁有咩關係啊？咁咪睇一幅圖，有冇啲咩嘅證據去講到俾你聽咯。咁啊，正如頭先所講啦，全視技能啦，今次講解釋個關係啦，係咪？咁一開波啦，就要噏得出啦。求其根據個數據去描述一下咧因果關係啦。究竟乙型肝炎病毒或者乙型肝炎嘅呢個病同肝癌有冇咩嘅關係呢？咁原來乙型肝炎咧係肝癌嘅其中一個高危因素嚟嘅，或者曾經患有乙型肝炎咧係增加咗患有肝癌嘅風險嘅。咁點解我會知啊？咁啊用數據咯，咁用數據啦，咁啊記緊翻咧係紅色呢一句，係講緊每個年齡層你都要講，就唔好淨係用一個年齡層。因為啦，其實4個年齡層底下咧，你都會發現佢哋都有一個相同嘅趨勢嘅，就係冇接種到乙型肝炎疫苗嘅人咧，其實佢嘅肝癌嘅發病率咧係高一啲嘅。有接種嘅話，相對上係少啲嘅。咁啊，4個年齡層都係咁樣嘅。咁所以啦 ，in all age group 喺所有年齡層你係要提及嘅。而提及嘅咧就係紫色呢一句啦，就係有接種到乙型肝炎疫苗嘅人咧，佢就相對一啲冇接種到乙型肝炎疫苗嘅人，佢嗰個肝癌嘅發病率係低一啲嘅，或者反翻轉咯，係嘛？冇接種乙型肝炎疫苗嘅人嘅發病率就會高過有接種到乙型肝炎疫苗嘅人咯。咁所以都係一樣嘅道理嚟嘅啫。咁呢個題目最常見嘅錯誤咧，其實就係有啲同學直接當咗啊，乙型肝炎係導致肝癌啊！其實佢哋真係睇漏嘢噶嘛。你會發現啦，就算我接種咗乙型肝炎嘅疫苗啊，其實我都仍然有機會係患有肝癌噶嘛。咁所以能唔能夠話原來咧乙型肝炎咧就同肝癌咧係直接有關係？咁呢個就唔得啦。呢個咧就似係咧大家咧有陣時淨係我見到本書咧，本書話呢個乙型肝炎病毒咧係一個致癌物質嚟㗎。咁所以咧，一有乙型肝炎咧，就會有肝癌噶啦。咁可能佢哋因為呢個原因而導致有呢個誤解咯。咁所以啦，又要提下大家呢個生物嘅哲學咯。有好多現象咧，唔係話會唔會啊、有冇啊、係唔係嘅問題， 而係多少啊、遲早啊、快慢啊、高低嘅問題。就好似食煙同埋患肺癌，係嘛？一個人唔食煙，佢都可以患肺癌噶。不過如果佢長期食煙嘅話，佢就大啲機會有肺癌咯。而家個情況都一樣啦。我打咗乙型肝炎疫苗嘅針，佢就減低咗我患有乙型肝炎嘅機會，從而亦都降低咗我患有肝癌嘅機會。但係代唔代表你完全唔會有肝癌呢？其實唔係喎。都有可能嘅，咁所以大家咧就要結合翻一啲真正嘅生物現象同埋概念之間嘅關係咯。又嚟到1點出發啦。今次嘅題目咧就由疾病負擔開始啦，就講下傳染病同埋非傳染病啦。咁今次題目咧有2款病嘅，傳染病就係乙型肝炎啦，非傳染病就係肝癌啦。然後啦就問翻一大堆數據分析嘅題目啦，亦都加埋一啲疫苗接種嘅原理啦。咁過往都有好多疫苗嘅長題目啊、MC 嘅，咁啊快手睇下片溫下書啦。咁啊有關於數據分析咧就考翻我哋啦，接種疫苗同嗰個相應嘅傳染病嘅發病率有冇咩嘅關係啦？咁原來啦係一個預防嘅關係啦，能夠截斷咗個感染鏈嘅關係啦。中運用嘅原理就係免疫記憶啦。咁呢類型啦，無論係 Part B 嘅定係 Part D 嘅呢啲咁嘅因果題目咧，過往都有考過嘅。咁好似2019年咧就問過大家啦，一棵植物嘅蒸騰作用啦，係一日之間嘅變化啦，同佢個徑部嘅直徑嘅變化啦，有冇咩嘅關係嘅？上次呢個題目咧，俾完幅圖你，跟住就話啦，兩者嘅關係，有啲同學中晒招嘅，係嘛？倒翻轉嚟講嘅，佢哋咧就會覺得咧係個徑部嘅直徑影響咗個蒸騰作用嘅速率嘅，但其實唔係噶嘛，係蒸騰作用嘅速率係影響咗個徑部嘅直徑。而今次2024年嘅題目咧，佢好就好在佢俾咗個提示你，佢要你根據接種疫苗嘅原理，咁其實都暗示咗啦，就係先打咗針，然後再令到個發病率、感染率係下降啦，係咪？咁所以啦，今次嘅題目咧係簡單啲嘅。然後啦，綜合晒所有概念咧，就去到公共衛生嘅題目咯。乙型肝炎嘅疫苗接種就對於啦喺呢個社會當中，佢嗰個乙型肝炎嘅病發率呢個傳染病嘅疾病負擔會下降啦，係咪？長遠嚟計啦，其實都係有助到減低肝癌嘅發病率嘅。過往啦，有冇一啲題目都係有關於公共衛生嘅咧？其實就有好多嘅。登革熱有2條啦，大腸病變啊、疫苗啊呢啲其實都係有噶。個人咧公共衛生係嘛？例如啦個登革熱嘅，喂要減少嗰啲積水啦，係咪避免呢個蚊蟲嘅滋生啦？又或者公民責任咧，有一條係講呢個日本腦炎噶。嗰個人咧就去完日本旅行啊，日本咧就有好高嘅日本腦炎嘅感染率喎，好高危喎。咁翻到嚟香港啦，佢都要繼續噴多一陣呢個蚊怕水，唔好俾啲蚊咧去針自己嘅。咁其實就係避免，如果呢個人真係中過招，有日本腦炎嘅病毒喺自己嘅身體入面啦，就唔好喺香港嘅白紋伊蚊針完你就去針其他人啊嘛，係咪？又或者啦，疫苗嘅政策啦，又或者大腸癌嘅普查計劃啦。咁有關於咧疾病啊、免疫系統啊，其實過往咧都係一個好常見嘅題目嚟嘅。咁大家快手睇下片溫下書咯噃。Student, I'm Mr. Leung. So today we are going to talk about the data analysis question, and the main theme is about the disease. Before we talk about the question, we have the basic information first. Disease burden is a measure of the population health that aims to quantify the potential loss of the lifespan and health outcomes due to illness as compared to the ideal of living to a ripe old age and in the good health. So for the graph below shows the percentage share of the disease burden caused by the infectious disease and the non-infectious disease in country X from 1992 to 2014. And then for part A, describe the change in the percentage share of the disease burden of country X 1992 to 2014 is about the data description. And apart from the description, we also need to do the comparison, because in the graph, there are 2 types of disease. One type, infectious disease, the other type, non-infectious disease. So you can see that I make it red and yellow to make it clear to see it. So you can see that for the infectious disease, the red bar becomes shorter. And then the yellow bar, it becomes longer. It means that along the time, the disease burden caused by the infectious disease decreases. At the same time, or we say that, but that caused by the non-infectious disease increases. It is the complete comparison. Or next time, it may ask you that suggest a reason for the change in the percentage share of the disease burden of country X from 1992 to 2014. One mark for the change and the other mark for the reason. So for this question, it's also a way to check us the concept about the infectious disease and the non-infectious disease, especially when we need to suggest a reason. Maybe for the vaccination program, it helps us to break the infection chain in the community. Or for the people, we do not move at all, we do not do exercise at all, or we have a lot of processed food. So it increased the incidence of the non-infectious disease. So that's also the way for the reason. And the common mistake in this question is that some candidates only mention the trend observed in the infectious disease only, but make no mention of the trend of the non-infectious disease. They cannot do the complete comparison. They just say that infectious disease or right area, the right region, the disease burden becomes smaller, but they did not mention the non-infectious disease. And then some candidates, they only give a description of the data point at 1992 to 2014. They do not mention the white or black area, they just mention the line. So somehow it says that the disease burden increases. But what do you mean? Do not talk about the comparison as well. So part B. The graph below shows the impact of the hepatitis B vaccination on the incidence of the hepatitis B infection in country X from 1992 to 2014. So for this graph, there are two y-axes. So one y-axis is the hepatitis B vaccination coverage, and the other y-axis is the incidence of the hepatitis B infection. So take a look at the question. With reference to the principle of the vaccination, explain the relationship shown in the graph. Surely, it's about synoptic skills again. Firstly, we need to describe the relationship. It means that we need to determine the cause and effect between these two factors. But which one is the cause? Which one is the effect? Let's say, could it be the incidence of the hepatitis B infection drops and that it makes the hepatitis B vaccination coverage increases, or the opposite idea? No worry, because the question gives you the hints already. We need to construct the explanation by using the biological knowledge, the other 3 marks. So the hints is that with reference to the principle of vaccination. So it means that we have the vaccination first, and then we will change the incidence of the hepatitis B infection. So the cause will be the change in the hepatitis B vaccination coverage increases. It will lead to the change in the incidence of the hepatitis B infection. It will drop. So we have figured out the relationship. So let's do the explanation. So take a look at the scaffolding. So with reference to the principle of vaccination, surely we need to talk about the immune response. Firstly, for the recognition of the foreign antigen, vaccination allows the pre-exposure of the immune system or the B cell, T cell, B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte to the antigens of the hepatitis B virus. So remember that in this question, we have the context is about the hepatitis B. So you need to mention that it's about the hepatitis B virus. Some students, they mention it wrongly to make it hepatitis B bacteria. Or they just mention about the pathogen. So what is the pathogen? You know it. It should be the hepatitis B virus. And then it will trigger the primary immune response. And remember that the most valuable part of the primary immune response is the production of memory cells for the antigens of the hepatitis B virus. And after that, the second exposure, re-exposure to the same antigen. In this case is that when the memory cells encounter the antigens of the real hepatitis B virus, the person really got infected. So the memory cell will trigger the secondary immune response or to cause the B lymphocyte to have a stronger or faster immune response to produce more antibodies to eradicate the hepatitis B virus before it can invade the cells. That's the concept about the principle of the vaccination. And then we can use these ideas to talk about the relationship. And then we can talk about the relationship between these two y-axes. The incidence of the hepatitis B infections decreases with the increase in the vaccination coverage. So no matter you present the answer from the order A, B, C, D or B, C, D, A is also correct. Let's talk about the common mistake. So some candidates, they simply say that there would be memory cells after vaccination, but they neglect, they omit the first exposure of antigen to the lymphocytes in their answer. They just say that once we have the vaccination and then there will be memory cell in our body. They do not talk about the primary immune response. And that's the very important bridge for the production of memory cells. And then some students, they did not elaborate on how the memory cell offer the immunity because the memory cell, once they recognize the antigen of the same pathogens, let's say the hepatitis B virus, they will trigger the secondary immune response. And let's say the B lymphocyte, they will produce a lot of antibodies in a shorter period of time, and then to push up the antibody level in our body to offer the immunity. They did not elaborate this idea. So in this case, they just skip some steps in the logic thinking. And some students, they wrongly thought that the memory cell produced the antibody in the secondary immune response. So for the production of the antibody, it should be by the B lymphocyte, right? And then for the some candidates, they mix up antigens and antibody as well. Some video about the antibody, antigen, antibiotics. So watch the video for the revision. And then for part C, with reference to the information from A and B, suggest the role of the vaccination in the change of the disease burden in country X. So for this question, it's still about the cyanotic skills. So what do we need to suggest? The blue part, the role, the function. So vaccination program can reduce the incidence of the infectious disease. That's what we see from the graph. Or we can say that to reduce the number of susceptible hosts to break the chain of the infection. That's the role, that's the function. And then related to the change in the disease burden in country X. So surely in part A, we know that for the disease burden can be divided into two parts. One part is the infectious disease and the other part is the non-infectious disease. Therefore, we can say that it will help to decrease the disease burden caused by the infectious disease in country X. And some students, they just say that the disease burden will decrease, but the disease burden caused by what? They still need to mention it. So to make your answer more comprehensive. And the part D, we add one more disease, is the liver cancer. So the graph shows the incidence of the liver cancer among different age group who have or have not been vaccinated against the hepatitis B in country X. So you can see that in each age group, there are two bars. One bar is for the unvaccinated people, and the other bar, the black one, is for the vaccinated people. So for the question, what can you conclude about the relation between the hepatitis B and the liver cancer? And support your answer with the evidence from the graph. So apart from the cyanotic skills, any concept checking here? Sure, it's about the risk factor for the cancer. So from the textbook, we learned that from the family history, aging, exposure to the carcinogens or unhealthy lifestyle. And in this question, it's about the carcinogen. Particularly, it's already mentioned in the textbook. It's about the hepatitis B virus. It's a kind of carcinogen linked to the liver cancer. For the cyanotic skills, we need to explain the relationship. First of all, we need to have a correct description of the data with reference to all age group. to realize the cause and effect role between the hepatitis B and the liver cancer. So we can see that the hepatitis B is a risk factor for the liver cancer, or we can say that having hepatitis B increases the risk of getting liver cancer. And then we need to explain. So we need to relate the data trend to the concept of the risk factor. The thing I would like to mention is that we need to fully use the data. That means in terms of the age group. You can see that the incidence of the liver cancer is higher in the unvaccinated group than the vaccinated group in all ages. Some students, they just mentioned that, you can see that from 20 to 26 years old, wow, for the unvaccinated people, they have a higher chance to suffer from the liver cancer, but they neglect the other age group. So you need to mention all of them by simply using the terms in all age groups. And for the common mistake, some students, they make the wrong conclusion that hepatitis B caused liver cancer. We're not aware that the liver cancer also occurred in the vaccinated group. They have this misunderstanding. Therefore, I want to recall the biology philosophy again. So a certain biological phenomenon is not the matter of yes or no, but the matter of more or less, sooner or later, faster or slower, higher or lower. For example, for the smoking and the lung cancer. Surely, if you are a heavy smoker, you have a higher chance to suffer from the lung cancer. But it doesn't mean that a non-smoker will never suffer from lung cancer. They may still have chance to suffer from lung cancer, but maybe in a lower chance. Because we still need to consider the family history, the aging, something like this. And let's talk about the curriculum mapping. First of all, we talk about the disease burden and the percentage share involved, the infectious disease and the non-infectious disease. So in this question, we talk about the hepatitis B and the liver cancer. And for the whole question, surely it's about the data analysis. We use the data to draw the conclusion, to find the evidence, whatever. And then it's also about the vaccination program. So we need to recall the principle of the vaccination to draw the cause and effect relationship between the vaccination coverage and the incidence of the hepatitis B infection. So it's a way for us to prevent the disease. And we need to recall the idea about the immunological memory. And for this question, it always asks us about the cause and effect. So it reminds me the question in 2019. And for 2019 is asking the relationship between the rate of the transpiration and the stem diameter. So in this question, many students, they misunderstood the relationship to make it that the stem diameter will affect the rate of transpiration. So it's really a big trap. And in this year, the question become easier because the questions give you the hints, ask you to reference to the principle of vaccination. So somehow it tells you the cause and effect already. And then after that, we combine all the idea is about the public health. So for the public health, in this case, we talk about the vaccination program. It can help us to reduce the disease burden caused by the infectious disease in the country. And it may be applied for the other type of infectious disease or even the non-infectious disease, because we know that the hepatitis B is also related to the liver cancer. And in the past, any other public health issue, surely for the dengue fever, for the rectal cancer, or for the vaccination, we have the personal and the public hygienes. For the civic responsibility, let's say people use the mosquito repellent to reduce the chance being bitten by the mosquito, and then to break the chain of the infections of different kind of disease. Or we can use the vaccination policy to reduce the infection of the infectious disease, or we use the screening program for the cancer. So you can see that for the diseases, for the immunity, they are the hot topics. So remember, do revision about these chapters.